Just a word of warning before we get into this video, there will be heavy spoilers. Get it? Got it? Good. Now, I liked The Force Awakens. I thought The Force Awakens was a pretty good movie. But the thing is, it's just a remake of A New Hope. It's just a remake of A New Hope. It's exactly the same. It's as if they took the script from 1976 and just pasted some new names into it, and that's the film that we got in The Force Awakens. They're just kind of trying to introduce, Star Wars to a new generation, and they've just kind of copied and pasted over what worked 40 years ago. We have a main character who starts on a desert planet. There is a droid that has some plans put into it that are vital to this big battle between the Resistance and the First Order, just like the Rebellion and the Empire in the first Star Wars movie. Plans were hidden in a droid, which then the person on the desert planet finds and then goes off on an adventure to find out that they are going to become a Jedi. And then, of course, we have the Millennium Falcon, we have Han Solo, we have a big super weapon that has to be destroyed, and then you go down, you take down the shield generator, just like in Return of the Jedi, and then they blow it up, just like the end of the first Star Wars movie, and then just like Empire Strikes Back, we have a planet that is all ice and snow, and of course the movie ends in a down note, just like Empire Strikes Back. It is a remake of the original trilogy. We have a mentor role, played by Han Solo this time instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi, who guides Rey through the film, and then he dies at the end, and it's a remake. It's a remake of A New Hope. It was done well, it looked cool and everything, but I can't really give it credit because it's a remake, and I just wish that, I wish that they just followed the extended universe, the expanded universe. I wish that they'd gone with the books. I want to see Jason Solo and Jaina Solo, and I want to see Anakin Solo and Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I wanted to see the EU. Kylo Ren, he was just like Darth Vader, it was derivative, it was just the most ridiculous fan reaction to The Force Awakens. It was a remake of A New Hope. I'm sorry, but I need to address this. The Force Awakens is not a remake of A New Hope. It just isn't. Does it have elements, similarities to it? Yes. Yes, it does. What similarities does it have? Well, we have a main character who, spoilers, a Skywalker, Rey, on a desert planet who's kind of on her own, and she has to her future is uncertain. She goes on her way. She happens across some characters who take her off on an adventure, and she learns that she is strong in the ways of the Force. Just like A New Hope, right? No, wrong. You see, Rey had no family. She didn't have an aunt and an uncle. We don't know if she had anyone watching over her, although my theory is that Max von Sydow's character was watching over her. For all we know, she was there on her own. She's fending for herself. She's a scavenger. She hasn't got the opportunity to go to an academy. She hasn't got the opportunity to go out and work at the moisture farm and get moisture evaporators and stuff. And she doesn't work with droids and things like that. She doesn't have a family, full stop. And then there's the fact that, she doesn't have someone who tells her, you must come and become a Jedi, you must come and learn the ways of the Force. The way that she learns that she can be a Jedi, the way that she learns that she is sensitive to the Force, is through the things that happen during the movie, and the things that just seem to happen, that seem to come naturally to her. Like when Finn is taken through that door by the big alien, and she kind of times it perfectly. Because she's kind of thinking, how I was able to do that, and the way that she piloted the Millennium Falcon, her reflexes. And then later on, she tries the Jedi mind trick, and she manages to make it work, and then during the saber duel, she pulls the lightsaber to herself, and she realizes that she has something within her that she can unlock. Completely different to the way that it worked with Luke in A New Hope, where he was told that he must train to become a Jedi. He was told what you have to do. He was told, use the Force, let go of your feelings. Rey had none of that. She had none of that. Or did she? My theory, which is a whole other video, is that she was trained and brought up to be a Jedi, but she's kind of forgotten, and she's kind of reaching into the subconscious of her mind throughout the film to realize what's inside of her. The Force awoke inside Rey. That's why I believe that the title of the movie is that moment when she grabs a lightsaber and the Force awakens, because a Jedi, or a potential Jedi, suddenly realizes their potential and their power, or potential power. So there's that part of it. Then there's the plans. The plans that went into R2-D2 in A New Hope were plans to the Death Star to take it down. In The Force Awakens, it isn't a set of plans like people are saying, it is a map. A map that leads to Luke Skywalker, and yes, it's a map that both opposing sides of the good and evil side of the First Order and the Resistance, they both want it. But it isn't as integral to the overall kind of battle. Really, it's the Star Killer base, which is the big thing. And yeah, sure, when they look at the plan of the Star Killer base, it's very similar to Return of the Jedi, but you have to kind of take into consideration that this is the way the universe works in Star Wars. If there's a big super weapon, they're going to find plans to it, and they're going to go, okay, this is how we take it down. The shield generator, yeah, very similar to Return of the Jedi, but if you have a big super weapon, you're going to need to protect it, so you're going to need a shield generator, and the good guys are going to need to take it down before they can do any damage to it. I mean, it's like, when we have wars in real life, it just keeps getting repeated. That is the harsh reality of war. And again, the definition of insanity is repeating the same things over and over again, expecting different results. It just keeps happening. People keep dying in wars. It's happened since mankind, discovered greed, and we all started killing each other over money and land and all that kind of stuff. And it just keeps happening. Nothing really changes. It's the same in Star Wars. And Star Wars is a mythological kind of story. And to me, the essence of Star Wars is what we see in the episodes. Now, we can enjoy the Clone Wars TV show, we can enjoy the comics, the books, all that stuff, Rebels, but for me, the essence of it is the Skywalker saga, which is episodes going to be now 1 through 9. So it has to be about Skywalker, because the Skywalker bloodline is very powerful with the Force. And history repeats itself. There will always be a light side, there will always be a good side, and, in episode 1, we have Anakin Skywalker, who, again, lives on a desert planet, goes off to become a Jedi. In episode 4 we have Luke Skywalker, lives on a desert planet, goes off to become a Jedi. The same desert planet, in fact, Tatooine. In episode 7 we have, who I believe to be Rey Skywalker, going off to become a Jedi, but in a different way. And it's different for all three of these Skywalkers. And I loved how it was different. I just can't understand why people think that it's they say it's a remake. Elements are used, and it's goes back to what George Lucas said. It's like poetry. They rhyme with each other. There's similarities between the generations, and I think that's kind of part of the appeal. And there are always going to be differences. There are always going to be differences, and I just think that. And again, Han Solo being Rey's mentor, just like Obi-Wan Kenobi. No, not like Obi-Wan Kenobi at all. He doesn't say to Rey, you should use the Force. He doesn't say, you should come with me. And well, he does say that, but it's a different kind of mentor role. If anything, I see Han as more of a mentor to Finn in a way. But there's a different relationship that he has with Rey there that's kind of interesting, because again, she's quite useful with fixing things and the Falcon and stuff. He's impressed by her, but it's a different kind of relationship. And when he goes out and he dies, he doesn't do it to give everyone else the chance to go off and escape. He does it because he's trying to save his son. It's completely different when Obi-Wan sacrificed himself in A New Hope. Han wasn't going in to sacrifice himself. He probably knew that he was going to die, or that was at least a possibility, but he went there to save his son. He didn't go there to help the others escape. It was all part of the plan. He wanted to, kind of kill two birds with one stone, take down the shield generator, and maybe bring his son back at the same time. But yeah, there's just so many differences, right? And the ending's just like Empire Strikes Back. So it's a bittersweet ending. Is it really? Is it really? Because tell me how Luke and Leia looking out into this, this spiral galaxy or whatever, is in any way, exactly the same as Luke and Rey's meeting at the end of it. Just explain to me how that's similar. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a down note, the bittersweet ending and stuff, but it's completely different, and it's a different kind of cliffhanger. And yeah, for me, people who say it's a New Hope remake, they don't understand. For me, okay, if you think that, that's fair enough, that's your opinion. I just strongly disagree with it, okay? I really do strongly disagree with this mindset. And the worst of it is that people are saying this, and they're saying that that is what makes them feel, you know, we've seen it before, we've been here before, it's the same thing we see before. What do you want, honestly? Honestly, these are the same people who hated the prequels with such a passion, thought that it ruined Star Wars, which to me is still ridiculous. They weren't amazing films, but they didn't ruin or sully anything that came before it, in my opinion, because you can still watch those original movies as they are, you know, and they see this and they say, oh, it's, you know, the prequels, they weren't like the originals, you know, and now they try and make these films very much feel like the tone and the look and feel of the originals. People are like, oh, yeah, they relied too much on going back to the original trilogy and stuff. It's a sequel to the original trilogy. What do you want? You know, did you look at Return of the Jedi and go, oh, this is too similar to Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, really? Well, it's a sequel, you know. No, you didn't say that. The Force Awakens is a sequel. It may take place 30 years later, but it is a sequel. And I don't understand the mindset. I really don't, of saying it's a remake and that is why it's not great. If you don't like the film, that is fine. Of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion. It's just when you start saying it's because it is you know, it's exactly the same as A New Hope. It isn't at all. It has similarities. It has, you know, just things that here and there that, you know, kind of echo throughout the generations, you know, and I like that. Again, I'll get into it in my full spoiler review. I don't think the Starkiller base being destroyed was very good. I thought it was a bit rushed and a bit too neat of an ending to the film. So again, I'm not like this film is amazing, 10 out of 10, perfect in every way. Of course not. It's flawed, just like the original trilogy is flawed. But yeah, it's not a remake, guys. It really isn't. Similarities is as far as I will go. You know, again, droid and plans, droid and map, very different. You know, and the characters are different. I mean, Kylo Ren, he ain't Darth Vader. He is a much more complex and, dare I say, a much more interesting character than Darth Vader. Every scene Kylo Ren is in is captivating. I was just hanging on every word he said. His physical presence, you know, and I'll talk about this again in the spoiler full review, but his presence, and then when you see the layers come back and you see that he is actually not so sure of himself, and he feels the pull from the light side. He doesn't want to, but he doesn't know, and he's got this power, and he's scared of it. And again, the confrontation with Han Solo at the end, I think, is one of the most emotionally dynamic scenes in the entire Star Wars series, if not the one. You know, I mean, I challenge people to find, you know, really emotional moments like the ones we see in The Force Awakens in any of the other films. Now again, I still prefer the original films, but the emotional complexity that's in The Force Awakens is just something you don't see a lot of in the original trilogy. And I think sometimes people put the original trilogy on too high of a pedestal, and I also think that people, they get too caught up in how we rank the films, you know. Oh, is The Force Awakens better than the originals, or is it on par? You know, people say, well, it was better than the prequels, but not as good as the originals, so a bit disappointing. It doesn't need to be better than the originals. If The Force Awakens is the fourth best or your fourth favourite Star Wars film, that doesn't mean it's not a good film. Do you know what I mean? It's the bar is set so high with those original three, I think. You don't have to shoot, you know, to match it or go above it. You can still get under that bar and have a really great film, which is what I feel it is, at the very least, is below the originals and a very, very good film. So, yeah, that is my rant. I had to get it out because everywhere I look, people, I think someone just said it, and then people started picking up on it, and again, not to discredit you, but it just seems like everyone is jumping on the bandwagon and going, yeah, it is a New Hope remake. It is exactly like the New Hope. They've copied and pasted. Someone actually said it's like they took the script and changed the names. Like, what? What? Like, seriously? Have you seen the film? Where's the big emotional lightsaber duel at the end of A New Hope? Isn't one. You know, whereas, I mean, you know, it's hard to bite my tongue with this, I have to say. And I'm not being one of these blind fans who thinks that everything is amazing and all that. You know, this, again, that The Force Awakens is definitely flawed, has things about it that weren't great, but overall I loved it, and I just think it's a mind-boggling thing to say to me, and everyone is saying it. Reviewers that I respect and stuff, they're like, yeah, it's very similar to A New Hope, and they list all the reasons, and they're like, we've seen it all before, you know, it's not very original, and it's just like, ugh. You know, and there's, oh, they have a cantina scene, just like A New Hope. Well, no, it's not a cantina. It's more of a kind of a pirate. Well, I guess it is kind of a cantina, but I mean it's different, you know. And it's homaging what came before in a respectful way that doesn't overpower the rest of the film. It just doesn't, you know. And at this, again, at the same token, these films are, you know, history is set to repeat itself in mythological fables like this. You know, we probably will see episode 10, 11 and 12 in 20 years time, and they will have, you know, comparisons and similarities to the other films. I mean, it really isn't like we had Rey looking off into the sunset, you know, and just kind of, I mean, and even like the beginning of the very first shot, kind of reminiscent of the opening of New Hope, but completely different at the same time. It has this nice homage, but it's different, and it looked awesome. I don't know. I feel like the referencing of the past and the building of the new was perfectly done. Like that scene with Han and Chewie and those two groups of people who he owed money, that was a little reminiscent of Han's character. But I mean, you had all these characters and looks and names that you'd never heard before, these aliens and creatures you'd never seen before. You know, and it was like nothing we'd ever seen in a Star Wars film before. That scene, and I don't know. I've kind of gone past the point now. I should have wrapped this up earlier than I have, but it was something I wanted to get off my chest. And again, we're still on the road to episode 8, but there's a lot to talk about when it comes to The Force Awakens, so stay tuned, stick with the series. I will get to episode 8 stuff very soon, and I believe they start shooting in January, so once that happens there'll be more stuff about news of episode 8. But we're still in the week of the release of The Force Awakens, so that's going to be covered a lot in this series so far. As I said before, I felt like I needed to end the road to episode 7 as soon as I'd seen the film, because it didn't make much sense to do the road to episode 7 like a week after I'd already seen the film and it had already come out and everyone had seen it. So yeah, the road to episode 8 will be chock full of Force Awakens stuff, as I've said. That is my rant off my chest. It's probably more I wanted to say, but I was just too fired up to even get everything out. But let me know what you think, and if you are one of those people who thinks that The Force Awakens is a remake of A New Hope, that's fine, that's fine. I respect your opinion, I just, again, vehemently disagree with it. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, these are opinions about films. You know, it goes back to what Simon Pegg said about the prequel trilogy. It was like George Lucas murdering his own children. It's like, dude, they're films. You know, I know they mean a lot to everyone. They mean so much to me. They're more than just films. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, they are just films, you know, and opinions on films are nothing, in my opinion, to start falling out over. But again, here I am getting really fired up about it, but I just think like it was just a weak criticism to me. I don't know, and it just didn't hold any water, so I had to call it out, had to say it as I saw it, and I'm glad to see a lot of people are just enjoying it for what it is, not looking too deeply into a few comparisons and similarities, and have just enjoyed the film for what it was and what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. And I'm also seeing that the people who, it seems to me, that were the haters of the prequels and thought the prequels ruined everything, it seems to me that those people are also saying that they think this movie was like, you know, JJ ruined it and so much potential wasted and all this kind of stuff. Do you know what I say to those people? Honestly, just give up. Just give up. Stop going to see these films, because you will never be satisfied. You're putting the original films on too high of a pedestal, as I just said. You know, if you hated the prequels and you really don't like The Force Awakens, just stop. Just stop. You're torturing yourself. You know, you clearly have no joy within you, and you can't enjoy these films for what they are. You can't get past the fact that the original films, they're never going to be recaptured. Never going to happen. You can make a film like The Force Awakens that kind of feels like a natural progression and evolution of the feel of those films, but you just can't recapture it. Try and make a proper 80s film now, you just can't. You could in the 80s, because that's the way it was. It's almost impossible to do that kind of thing, so you're never going to get what you want out of Star Wars. So again, just give up. Just stop watching. Stop talking about it. Just give up. Just give up. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.